What's up, everybody? Doug here, and kind of like the hangover of the holiday episode. It was a short week because we just had Labor Day last weekend, and we had a show I had a show that I did over at a place called Low Tides in Bridge City, and I tried to do this episode. What day? It probably would have been Tuesday that I tried to do it, and I was just not in the proper headspace for it, and last week we were going to record and I didn't do a recording. It was just like a weird week and a half, 2 week period. And it's finally to the point where I feel okay with recording an episode because it's just one of those things where you don't like a lot of times you can just flip a switch and you can put that character on. But it was just a weird 2 week period where I didn't need to, so I didn't push it because I had a lot of episodes that I had in the can, so to speak. And so yeah, but we got some reviews that we got to talk about, and I'm gonna try to get through as many of these as I can. Just for today's purposes, I only have three of the reviews that we actually need to do. And we're gonna start off with a game called Ova Magicka, and this is a game. It's still in early access, so the problems that I'm going to get to are things that can be fixed eventually. So take it all with a grain of salt. Just go in knowing that at the time of this review, these issues were prevalent. Um, Basically, this is a game that for, we do have outlets that we reach out to for our game codes, but a lot of times we're on email lists basically where they send, hey, here's this game that we have. Are you interested? And there's like a sales pitch. And at the end of these emails, there's like a link that we click to go forth and fill out all of our information. And we either get a code or we don't get a code. But the email for Ova Magicka was, I think it was like Pokemon meets Stardew Valley. And it's like, I'm in. I'm 100% in. And not only is it Pokemon and Stardew Valley, but it's also a little bit of Animal Crossing. And there is a difference. Um, so Ova Magicka, it's this 3D. It's 3D. It's not 2D. Uh, and you get into this town, and you're introduced to the mayor. All the typical Stardew slash Animal Crossing opening moments where you're going through. You get to the tent because you start with the tent. You don't start with the house, and you just have all these things that you got to get there. You go and you pick your first blob. It's all very, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but it is. Um, the game lets you go pretty soon after that. And there are the, the farming elements where every day you wake up, you water your crops. You have to hoe the land, you have to plant the seed, you have to water the soil. And then after a certain amount of days, depending on what crop you have, you can harvest that crop and you can sell it, or you could do something else with it. We'll get to that in a little bit. Uh, but there's also the social element of it, where you're going around, you're interacting with the townspeople of. Dang it, I am completely blanking on the name. But we'll just say the townspeople. Uh, all of the characters are really good characters. I feel like, with very few exception. Um, it was to the point where I was trying to communicate with all of them at least once a day. And oh, excuse me, had a little bit of yawn there. It's one of those things where all the characters were good. I enjoyed socializing with all of them every single day. I would try to find all of them. There is a map where you can see where they all are at any given time, and uh, something that I did enjoy is that they have everybody in town has their blobs with them, and there are the NPCs that you can interact with as well as the NPCs that are just there for blob battles, and they don't really have any personality attached to them. It's just, hey, we're just here for you to train your blob, basically, and that's all really good. And you do actually, the game incentivizes you to socialize a lot because when you socialize and you level up your social links, you get skill points to feed back into your character to get buffs like increased stamina and stuff like that. So I mean, it's important to do these things, and the game gives you rewards for doing them. Uh, Other social elements that I really did like, the festivals were really good here, and Animal Crossing and Stardew, they have their events. I would say that these events are closer to the events in Stardew Valley because you have to wait to a certain time and they go to a certain point in the town. The things that I do not like about it, we'll get into that in a little bit because I want to talk about the positives because this game does have so much that I like. There's foraging, there's fishing, there's hunting for bugs, there's all that good stuff that you want from a game in this genre. The the blob battles, they're either 1v1 or 3v3, and they work just like Pokemon battles. I mean, down to the very DNA of it. There are blobs that are more suitable for battles, and there are blobs that are more suitable for being like what's the word, like farm animals. Basically, there's a cow blob and a chicken blob where you can put them in the barn and they produce eggs or milk. And uh the blobs, the battle system is like an active time battle system where there is a bar at the bottom of the screen, and all the blobs participating in the battle, they are somewhere on that bar. Depending on their stats, they will move with varying speeds and start at different areas on the bar. And once they get to, like, there's the standby. There is a uh, I forget the name of it, but there's the bar where you get to. Once you get to it, you can pick your attacks, and then there's also the bar for the action. And basically, once you get to pick your attack, you get to the action bar, and once you get to the end of that bar, the blob that gets to the end of the bar will attack. Whatever blobs get hit can actually get knocked back on the bar a little bit. So if you plan your attacks right and you do the right moves, you can actually play that to your advantage to get all of your blobs to move in a much more succinct and a good manner to really get the most out of all of your attacks in each turn. All of these things are really, really good, but there are problems that the game desperately needs to address because right now, as much as I love Ova Magicka, I have a hard time recommending it to people because of these issues. The most prevalent issue in this game is the balancing of it. The balancing of the blob battles, even when you're following what the game seems to want to tell you, this is the main storyline that you need to push. You need to pursue this line of quests. Uh, Out of nowhere, the game's difficulty will rocket ahead of what you're capable of achieving at that moment, and because of that, you you feel like you have to go out and you have to grind, and I don't like that. If you're going to have a main quest line for these blobs, make it at least scale to your level. That's something that I wanted to touch on right away because there are these dungeons and there's the blob world that you can go into, and they're cool. They're cool, cool areas. But I don't want to ever go into them because I go in there and I can maybe get 2 to 3 battles in, and I've got to leave because I've got to heal. You can heal with items like like crops and food items, but the amount of items that you would need to go into these areas with to feel comfortable, you might as well just throw any money that you had down, like just completely down the toilet. Uh, and the balancing issues carry over into the farming element because your stamina bar will rocket down so fast that you feel like you get nothing done in the day. And what I mean by that is I will do my farming and my stamina bar is already probably about a third of the way gone at this point. And you have so many things that you need to get done, like foraging, uh, fishing, even and clearing out, getting stone and getting sand and getting wood to upgrade your house. Like you have such a limited amount of stamina that you have to work with. And I'm actually going to pause the episode real quick. I've got some banking things that I need to take care of, but we will be back, and I'm going to keep talking about why the stamina bar is an issue. All right, the banking is done. Now, as I was saying, so the stamina bar, there's so many things that you want to do in every day of Ova Magicka, and there's so many things you need to gather to upgrade your house, to upgrade the town, because you can put your resources into building things in the town. Like the first thing you could do is build a salon. Um, of course, you want to upgrade your house. You want to build new things on your property so that you can make more things. You can upgrade your all of your stuff. Even getting materials to upgrade your tools, right? Um, all these things you need materials for, but there's just not enough stamina to do them. And for most of the days, I would say that's fine because you don't need stamina to interact socially. So you can just go in, you can do what you can do, go do your social links, go to bed, right? But on the festival days, it's a big problem because you can't do that because you have to wait until the festival is ready. And let's just say the festival is in the main square of the town, you can't go anywhere past the town. So you're just stuck in certain areas. So not only do you have not enough stamina to do what you need to do, but you also have this time that you have to wait. And the time is in every day of Old Magicka is actually it's pretty substantial. So you have these periods where you're just stuck doing nothing. And that really hampers the gameplay. All that I mean that's really the only two the balancing of the game just really needs to be fixed. Uh Throughout my time with the game, there were a few segments where I would try to go to a certain area and they'd be like, "Hey, that's not in the game yet. This is still the early access build, so you just come back later and it'll be here." I'm not gonna ding the game for that. It's very clear that it's an early access game from the get go. I do love Ova Magicka. I want that to be 100% clear. But the balancing issues that are here just really prevent it from being a game that I can, say that this is a fantastic game. Go out and get this. It is a good game that has the potential to be fantastic. And once it hits that level, this is going to be a game that, excuse me, that cozy game connoisseurs, I should say, will really dig their teeth into and enjoy. So, that being said, the next game on our list is what's the next game on our list? Creatures of Ava. So, this is a game. Uh, the team over at Evolve PR provided us with the code, and you play as a character named Vic, and you land on the planet of Ava, and your mission is to the planet's dying, and you've got to get the creatures off of the planet so that you don't want them to all die, and you get down there, and the local tribe, they're not really feeling what you're putting down, and you've got to basically do a bunch of stuff to get them on your side. And to do this, you have to do a lot of quests for them. And the best way I can describe this game is it's like a mix between Horizon Zero Dawn and Wind Waker, uh, because to each area of the game, there's like these little robots that you have to get the creatures of Ava over to, and it extracts them and puts them into safety. Let me get a sip of my drink. You get them to safety, all that fun stuff, and the combat of the game, it's you have to cure the corruption in these animals, for some of them anyway. And to do that, you have to use you get the staff pretty early on, and it has this beam of light that comes out to cleanse them of the corruption. Once they're cleansed, you have to pull. There's like a little flute that you have, and you play. Once you take it out, you can see that the animals are singing a song, and you have to play the corresponding notes to match what they're doing. So, like you'll see their little wheel, and you can see what notes they're playing. And if you have a music, like if you're musically inclined, you can hear what they're playing. Um, and you have to play what they're playing, and not only do you have to match the notes, you have to match their cadence. So like you have to be on the rhythm of what they're doing, or they're not gonna recognize it as the right melody, if that makes sense. Uh, and then once you do that, they'll follow you as long as you have the flute out. You take them over to the you take them over to the rescue bot. It zaps them up, and that's how you rescue the creatures on the planet. Now, where it starts to get a little bit in the weeds is no, no, you know what? We're not gonna get there yet. We're gonna keep talking about the positive. We'll talk about the things I don't like in a little bit. So you get these. I mean, I don't know. I guess you would call them spells, and they help you traverse the area. Your staff also helps you cleanse There's like these vines, and you can cleanse these bulbs to get rid of the vines. Uh, I think that the writing in the game is really solid. The characters are well written. There's some good humor in here, and the graphics they're really stunning in this game. Especially, I started playing this game on the RG Ally, and I moved over to the Steam Deck OLED when I got that, and just the colors in this game really do pop on that OLED screen. If you if you have a Steam Deck OLED, or if you have an OLED monitor, this is a really good game for you to try out. Uh, the actual quests, and this is where we're going to start to kind of talk about the things I didn't like as much. Uh, they're fairly mundane. There's not anything that's really gonna like. There's no really hard hitting gameplay mechanics. It's gonna or story beats. It's gonna really get you to motivated to proceed on with the story. And as a matter of fact, the game actually has a bit of an issue where there are moments where it wants to stop. It puts your progress in a dead halt. So it is never, well, unless I just completely missed it, it is never explicitly stated that um, getting all like a certain amount of creatures in an area is required. Like it kind of presented it as an optional activity. But once you're done with an area, you have to go out and you have to find a certain amount of these creatures on the planet. The issue with that is that first off, the game once you get to that point where you need to get all these creatures, the game doesn't tell you that's what you need to do. It's just like, hey, you need to do this quest, and you're like, okay, what quest is it? The game won't tell you. I had to Google it to figure it out. Uh, and that is just such a oh, and before we go on, this is a cool thing that I completely forgot about. You can actually, after you tame the animals, you can take over them, and you can use their abilities to clear obstacles. And solve some puzzles. It's really cool. Uh, the game doesn't tell you that, and it's not the only thing that it doesn't tell you. There were multiple moments where I was in an area where the game wanted me to do a specific thing, but either one, it did not do a good job of telling me what it wanted me to do, or it gave me just completely wrong button prompts. So the most clear moment of that in my head was I was in this segment of the game where I had to use an ability that I had just acquired to clear out this vine bush thing, and I was doing exactly what the game told me to do, but it was not working, and it took me about 30 to 45 minutes of just trial and erroring things before I finally figured out that, oh, this ability is actually mapped to this button over on. I think the game was telling me to push the right trigger, but it was mapped to another trigger. But like I was trusting the game you're supposed to tell me what to do. I'm not supposed to tell you what to do. And it's just moments like that that really hamper this game from being great. Well, no, that's not what I meant. This is a great game. I do wholeheartedly recommend this game. But there are just those issues really do need to be fixed because it's taking a great game and making it just a good game. But overall, Creatures of Ava, it's a fantastic time. They really need to. Oh, and that's another thing. When you get to there's no waypoint system. Like you can put markers on the map, but no, just give me the waypoints. Uh, Great game, could be fantastic, but it's just not. There's so much there that keep it from getting to that level. Next on the list is a game that it kind of came out of nowhere, and I requested the code, I got it, and I really had a good time with it. It's called Dungeons and Degenerate Game. Sorry, that was a kind of a tongue twister, wasn't it? Uh, Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers. So earlier this year, there was a game called Balatro, and if you played it, you played it, you loved it. Um, Now, this game is similar to Balatro in that it is a game that takes a card game and turns it on its head a little bit. Balatro was Texas Hold'em. This is Blackjack. So, excuse me. The game basically you start you pick your deck. You can pick a deck. Excuse me. Uh, you can pick a spade deck, a heart deck, a club deck, etc., etc., etc. And once you start, you're playing blackjack. And I really like this game for being a blackjack game because Balatro was very loosely inspired on Texas Hold'em, and there were a lot more rules that you had to know. Blackjack, the rules are you need 21. That is your rule, right? And you get into it, and it's separated into rounds. It's not separated into runs, kind of like how Balatro is. Like you do one game. If you win, the game puts you back out to another menu where you can pick your next opponent, or there are these little side activities where you can choose to have a drink, which you'll pay, and you can regain health but lose a card, or you could go to sleep, and that has its own effects as well, depending on what kind of bed you want to rent for the night. There's just really cool little side activities like that. But the way the gameplay actually works is, again, you're playing blackjack. So your goal is to get 21. You start out with a card, and you basically you hit, and whenever you do you put the hit you blah, blah, blah. Whenever you push the hit button, you'll get another card, and you just keep hitting until you hit 21 or as close to 21 as you can get, or if you hit over 21, you bust. Now, how you win or lose is you and your opponent have a certain amount of hit points. Now, for example, let's say uh, my opponent is at 19 and I'm at 20, and we both stand up from the table. I will win that round, and he will lose 1 point of damage. Now, on the other hand, if he were to bust and I had 20, he would take 20 points of damage because his hand is busted. So there is nothing he has there. So that's how you win or how you lose. And after each round, you can choose to add a card to your deck. And that's where the strategy starts to get put into it. Like there's all kinds of different cards that you can add into your deck. Um, you can get cards that heal you for 14 hit points, uh, stuff like that. And it's, I don't, I don't want to say this game is better than Balatro because I still think Balatro is the better poker game, poker roguelike game. But I do like Blackjack better than Texas Hold'em. So I would see myself coming back to this game rather than going back to Balatro, if that makes sense. But so if you like card games, Balatro is still a fantastic choice, but so is Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers. And that is where we're going to cut it off for today, guys. Um, we do have more reviews that we need to get to, but I'm almost to my destination. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.